Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Damme, and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies, and because it's Monday, it's time for the Flicks of the Week. So if you're new here, welcome, but the Flicks of the Week are where I'm going to give you my top recommendations across all the major streaming platforms. That's going to be Netflix, Prime, Hulu, and the movie channels, as well as what to look for in the theater this week, what to look for rentals, a short film, and other stuff to keep you entertained throughout the week. Let's start this list off with my Amazon Prime recommendations. Hostile is a really cool little horror flick. Now, this is an indie movie. It's done on a fairly low budget, and everything works really well here. Part of the low budget, it's a very minimal cast. You're dealing with a woman trapped in this post-apocalyptic landscape, and there's something trying to kill her. And while it's not like my new favorite thing that I've seen, it's one of the better movies in this sort of sub-horror genre I've seen in a while. It does rely heavily on flashbacks, which I found to be a little bit of a detraction from the main story, but ultimately I felt like everything worked really well here. This one's got a little more heart than you would normally get in a movie like this, which kind of added some bonus points to it for me as well. Also on Amazon Prime, The Conversation is an early Francis Ford Coppola movie. This is before The Godfather, and it's a really incredible look at a guy played by Gene Hackman who is a surveillance expert. So you get a lot of spying. It's not really a spy movie, but it's got a lot of things you normally get in a spy film, yet it's more of a portrait of this guy, kind of a taxi driver type of a thing, not as dark, but you're really kind of getting this portrait of this guy that sort of spends his whole life surveying other people, and it's really well directed, it's really well put together. Coppola does a great job of telling you a lot of information without necessarily having to explain it. It's all done visually. So this is a really great sort of classic gem that I think people are still sort of discovering as it becomes more and more available on streaming platforms. On Hulu this week, I'm recommending The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot. Yes, that is the title of this movie, and it stars Sam Elliott as a guy who, as the title would say, killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot. A very weird title, not that weird of a movie. I mean, it's weird because those two things definitely do happen in this movie, but it feels very sort of grounded, like an indie movie about a guy. Again, you sort of just get this portrait of this character, this very fictional character, yet it all sort of worked together. It's got an odd vibe to it, but not like an off-putting one or anything like that. I kind of wanted to like it more. It sort of jumped around a little bit too much for me. Just go into this one with fairly low to no expectations, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And then another horror one for the week, Honeymoon is on Hulu as well. This is a cool little Twilight Zone-y kind of a movie. It's about a couple who are on their honeymoon in a cabin out in the woods, and the wife wanders off into the woods one night and she comes back changed. So you get body snatcher elements to this one. It's spooky, it's eerie, it's shot really well. Again, a very small movie. There's not a lot that's happening in this one, but for what does happen, I've really enjoyed this one. On Shudder this week, I'm recommending a movie called Dead Birds. Now, I did not necessarily love this movie, but I liked how different it was. For a horror movie, this one's a period piece about some guys that are trapped in a house and spooky things start to happen. That's the most I should really say about this one, but it's actually got a pretty good cast. It's shot pretty well. Again, a small movie, but one that I've never heard anyone talk about. It doesn't have a ton of buzz. If you've never heard of it and you've sort of maybe just seen the poster art for it, it's on Shudder right now and I do recommend it. On HBO, we got a little bit of a throwback from the 90s, Conspiracy Theory, starring Mel Gibson, Julia Roberts, Patrick Stewart, and again, as the title would say, it's about conspiracy theories or a conspiracy theorist played by Mel Gibson. Guy that's a real kind of maniac, but then you start to learn like maybe some of the stuff that he's saying is true, and you sort of go down this crazy rabbit hole, and it's a really well-produced movie. It's got some good action scenes in it. It's got some great scenes of tension. It's got a really good story and obviously good performances and chemistries between the leads, all of that. It's just a good movie from the 90s. If you never bothered, it's a hell of a pick on HBO right now. On Showtime this week, I'm recommending Baby Driver. This one was a pretty big deal just 2 years ago when it came out. It was filmed right here in Atlanta. It takes place right here in Atlanta. It's got fun action sequences and it feels different than anything else. When it came out, it felt new. It's directed by Edgar Wright, who's famous for movies like Shaun of the Dead, Scott Pilgrim, and I think Baby Driver fits in nicely as something new and different that he did. And sort of the hook for this one is the main character has tinnitus and he constantly needs to be listening to his earbuds in order to drown out the buzzing sound caused by that. And what you get is him listening to music constantly, but the music that he's listening to is timed perfectly with some really incredible car chases. So this is just a good, up-to-date action movie with some creative car chases and things like that, on top of just a really pretty killer cast. Going back to the 90s, again on STARZ, Fallen is a Denzel Washington movie about a demon that did well back when it came out, but I feel like time has kind of forgotten about it a little bit, and it's definitely worth revisiting, even if you've seen it. It's got really great elements in it, obviously a great performance by Denzel Washington, but also just this concept of this demon that can transfer by touch. It plays out really, really well on screen. John Goodman has a couple of appearances that are some of the best he's ever done, I think, in this movie. So if you want to watch something that's maybe like in the horror genre, that's not really a horror movie, it's just spooky and kind of scary and creepy, kind of a police procedural with supernatural elements, Fallen is just top shelf stuff in that like super sub genre category. And then on Cinemax, a lukewarm recommendation, but it is good enough, is Hunter Killer. This one stars Gerard Butler and Gary Oldman, and it's a submarine cat and mouse type of a thing. It's certainly not a movie people are going to be talking about years from now, but if you're just looking for something sort of new and fresh to watch that you don't have to think too much during, this one feels kind of like a Tom Clancy movie. I find it to not be as good as movies like The Hunt for Red October, but for something new and fresh, this one's good enough, like I said. Before jumping into my Netflix recommendations, if you like this type of content, definitely click that subscribe button and be sure the little bell icon is solid so you get notified when I put out new videos just like this one. But on Netflix this week, I'm recommending a sci-fi flick called The Signal. Now, I included this one on some lists months back, but it's been a while and I know I've got a lot of new subscribers that maybe haven't checked this movie out. Again, you get sort of a Twilight Zone type of a thing where you never really know what's going on, but it's got a bunch of twists and turns. It's about a guy who basically finds himself trapped in this lab and may or may not be part of some experimentations. The perspective, the point of view from the main character was really great in this one. Lawrence Fishburne makes an appearance that's pretty good. And then this movie, I never really knew what was going on until it ended, and it just kept me guessing, and I really enjoyed it for that. And then additionally, it's got some really pretty impressive action sequences and even more impressive cinematography at times. So a really great little hidden gem that far too few people know about. Another great hidden gem is Stephanie. This is a horror flick that's, I guess it's post-apocalyptic, but you've got a little girl wandering around a house all alone. There's no people around, and the movie starts to give you clues as to what may have happened, and it ultimately gets sort of darker and darker. I found this one to be just a really kind of interesting thrill ride again, just like The Signal. I never really knew what was happening or where the movie was taking me, so I was surprised sort of every step of the way as more got revealed. Again, sort of a horror movie, like big scaredy cats are not going to dig this one, but if you like horror but you don't like to get totally scared out of your mind, this one's a safe bet. Then my show of the week, I meant to talk about it last week, is The Boys, currently available on Amazon Prime. It is based on a book series, but it feels very different than all the Marvel stuff where you got these overpowered, near perfect, almost godlike superheroes. Here, they have the same power, but they're very corrupt. And the show deals with like corporate greed and corruption and crony capitalism and some really, really heavy adult themes. This is not one even really safe for teenagers. It's pretty intense. I have not finished the first season, but a few episodes in, and I'm really digging this one. It's a nice breath of fresh air, even though it's a show full of horrible people. And for the theater this week, I could not be less interested in everything coming to the theater, except there's a little movie called Driven that's also going to be available to stream, and it's going to be available in some theaters. But it's actually a movie about John DeLorean and sort of his cocaine dealings and the fall of his company, and it looks like it's going to have kind of a Wolf of Wall Street vibe mixed with, you know, something like American Made or The Infiltrator, sort of the crime element. It looks like my cup of tea. It's got a good cast. It looks like it's going to be a little funny and a little bit crazy. I would bet my money on this being a good pick for the week over anything that's majorly coming to theaters like Angry Birds. New to rent this week and on Blu-ray is Avengers Endgame. Because that came out, there's nothing else of interest getting added available to rent, unless it's something, you know, currently in theaters like the one I just mentioned, Driven. But I have not seen Endgame yet. I do plan on watching it this week. I would imagine a lot of you have seen it, so the moment has passed, but if it hasn't, now's your chance. You can rent it for a few bucks this week. My video of the week is from Ralph the Movie Maker, who did a whole video on Aquaman and how much he didn't like that movie. And the thing that's funny, even if you did like it, I think you could like this video because he does kind of a funny job at picking apart the sillier aspects of the movie. It's just kind of a fun way to watch how someone else thinks about a movie, because I enjoyed Aquaman, yet I found myself agreeing with a lot of his gripes. And my short film of the week is a funny one. Since I had so much horror packed in, I thought I'd give you a funny short film. It's called Lie Detector. It's really good. It's really short. There's a link to that in the description, as well as links to some of the other things I've discussed in this video.
$100, $500. So much I've lost count. $44,793.
That's a lot of money, Dean.
Well, I had cancer. I bought a boat.
If you'd like to support the channel, you can become a Patreon supporter like one of these fine people. They're doing a great job of keeping the channel alive and making sure I'm putting out better and more frequent content. You can also visit the Teespring store. I've got merch just like this shirt and a bunch of others that I designed myself. It's a good way to throw a little bit of cash to the show to support us and also get something in return, or you can maybe get a free t-shirt if you become a Patreon supporter. Again, links to all of that in the description, but I will keep making videos like this one as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking this one out, and you will see me on the next one.